Hey everyone, welcome to Mahle DIY. So today I'm going to be working on my 2005 Honda Pilot, and I'll be changing the thermostat out. And I'll be using this Mahle original part, which I got from Amazon for about $24 with tax included and free 2-day shipping. And I just checked on their website with this QR code, and it is a genuine Mahle part. And these are the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a 10mm wrench, 1/4 inch ratchet, 3/8 inch ratchet, 10mm 1/4 inch socket, 12mm 3/8 socket, a few extensions. So this is a 9-inch extension, 6-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch, and 4-inch, just so you can get down here and remove the thermostat bolts. They're right there. There's one on the top and the other one on the bottom. And the 12-inch, we're going to need it so we can remove this harness connector right here, this plate that holds this harness, because we won't be able to move it out of the way so we don't damage it. Because what I'm going to do is, I don't want to remove the hoses entirely. I just want to be able to have enough room to remove the housing, turn it over, and install the new thermostat in its gasket. So I do apologize for the viewing angles. I'm using a new tripod at the moment. So first thing we're going to do is remove this engine cover. So you just twist these off with your finger. Now, that difficult. Let me get something for that. Give me a moment. Okay, just get a coin. I'm going to get a nickel. Turn these plastic tabs. I don't know why they're stuck on there. Should be easy to turn them around. There. Let's remove the engine cover off. Set that aside. And you have the engine compartment. So what I'm going to do is remove this and get it out of the way. It'll just make things a lot easier to work on. So let me set the camera down so you guys can see what I'm doing. Sorry about that. Okay, let's put this here. This clamp. Out of the way. Move this connector. Loosen this clamp. There we go. then there's a harness right here clipped to the bottom of this hose. So you want to remove that. Pulling up. There's one. And this comes up like this. Set that aside. Connect that back in there. So as you can see, we have more working space. You don't have to remove the air box or the battery. You might have to do that under Honda vehicles, for example, the Accords or the TLs with the 3.0 or 3.2 liter engines, just because the engine compartment's a lot smaller and cramped. But for the Pilot and the Ridgelines and the Odysseys, you don't have to. Okay. So next, I'm gonna remove these 12 millimeter bolts. One right here, the other one right there. And this is just holding part of this harness in place. I just want enough room to be able to move it to the side. So when I take the thermostat housing, it doesn't interfere. And since I'm here, I'm going to unclip this secondary temperature sensor that's right next to the housing. Let's see if I can, okay, I unclipped it. There you go. You remove that. And then you also want to make sure to remove this ground. This ground is part of your fuel injection system. So if you damage this or don't connect this back, you're going to have issues where your car won't start. So let me remove that right now. So what I'm trying to do is fit this extension right there to get better leverage, because it's on there real tight. Okay, so let me remove that. Let me get the camera out of the way, and then I'll bring you guys back to the picture. Okay, sorry about that. Alright, so I already removed that ground connection from right here. So what I did is I used a 3/8 ratchet with a 1/4 inch adapter, and I used my 2-inch and I believe 3-inch for a total of 5-inch length extensions, just so I can get in between here, because you know the ABS lines are going to be in your way. Then you have this plastic part from the battery box, but it's doable. You just go under here. As you can see, you can get a good angle, and then you can actually take that 10 millimeter bolt off. I do apologize for the noise. My neighbor's doing his landscaping work right now, but you guys get the idea. So now let's remove these 12 millimeter bolts. So let me put you guys back down, and then I'll be right back once I remove this, okay? But it's very simple. You need a 12 millimeter socket and a 9-inch extension and a 3/8 inch ratchet. And to take those off, if you need a longer extension, you can use a 12-inch extension as well, okay? I'll be right back. Okay. And just as a precaution, I did remove the negative battery terminal, so I did set that aside. So sorry I didn't do that in the beginning. Now you do want to pay careful attention where these bolts go. This longer one goes right here, and then this much shorter one goes on the other side. And this one didn't, this shorter one didn't have a washer, as the other one did. I double checked. Nothing fell, so you can just put these here on the cowl. And see, now you have room to move your harness out of the way a bit. We don't need a lot of space. We just need enough room to move over the thermostat and put in the other one. You have a lot of room on the bottom, so you can push this thermostat housing with the hose down to create room. You just want to make sure not to damage this temperature sensor here. This would be a great time to replace the sensor if it's not working. Your primary temperature sensors right here is ECT1 and ECT2. So now we're in a good place to start unbolting these bolts. But before we start, you gotta have something under your car so you can collect all that antifreeze. So let me bring something for that. Okay, give me a moment. So I have this big tray that I'm gonna use to collect the antifreeze. You know, just to not have any mess. So it's so convenient. The pilot's it fits right underneath the pilot perfectly. So we don't have to worry about any of the antifreeze going on our floor. So it's down there perfectly. I just move it a little bit because I do want to catch this stuff. And I do have pets, so I just don't want anything on the ground. So there we go. We have our catch, our collecting bin. There we go. Great. So now I'm going to work on removing these 10mm bolts. I do apologize for the viewing angles, folks. I'm doing the best I can. I really want to get this video out. You know, I was planning not to film this. I was just going to change my thermostat and call it a day. But I don't see that many videos on this model of pilot. Or even any suggestions what replacement thermostat they use. I would always recommend an original Honda part. But sometimes, for example, my local dealer doesn't have it in stock. They'd have to order it, and I believe they wanted to charge me about $50 or $60 for it, and that's not bad. But online, you know, you have issues with counterfeit parts and whatnot. So I didn't want to go with Gates or standard motor products. So I went with Mahle. They're a reputable brand. They make really good parts, oil filters, gaskets, thermostats, other emissions components for vehicles. And they've been around for a while, for a long time already. So I got this on Amazon for $24 with tax, shipped to my house in next day. And yeah, I verified with a QR code it's a genuine part. And as you can see, it'll fit the pilot. You know, if you're familiar with these engines and these thermostats, it comes with a gasket. Some thermostats don't even come with a gasket. You have to buy that separately, reuse yours. And this is the right part because it has this little nipple up here which aligns with an indentation on the housing and on the block. So if your thermostat doesn't look like this and it doesn't have this nipple and it looks like it's bigger, most likely you got a thermostat for like a Civic. They kind of look similar to this, but a little bit wider here on the face, and the gasket is just completely round. There's no indent. It doesn't even have this. They look the same. They look like this, but that's for a Civic. So just keep that in mind when you're ordering your parts online, to double check your part numbers and also the vendor. But no complaints here. This is a really good genuine part from Mahle, and I'm going to put this in my pilot. And like I said, the reason I'm doing this is because I kept getting a P0118 and a P0116 for a temperature sensor high volt circuit too high, and also for temperature out of range. So I tried replacing the sensor first because usually the P0118 is for that, but nothing changed. I would get the P0116 after that. So I put back my old temperature sensor and I double checked that it's working fine. It has 2.7 ohms of resistance, which I checked was adequate, which is the right range. So it wasn't that. So I did further diagnosis and I did double check with my scan tool that around at 180 degrees Fahrenheit, the thermostat would open. And that's too soon. According to the manual, it says that, you know, the thermostat shouldn't open until 190 to 195 degrees. Any sooner than that, either the thermostat is opening too soon, meaning the spring is weak, or the thermostat is stuck open. And I've had issues that I've noticed. For example, I took a 15-minute drive and I stopped at a gas station. I checked my fluids, I checked the hoses, and I checked that the temperature on the lower hose was cold. It wasn't even warm until I got home. Other times I could be idling for less than 5 minutes and both hoses are hot. So that led me to conclusively believe that yes, I'm having issues with my thermostat, where it's throwing the temperature off to the temperature sensors. And I am consecutively also getting a P0172 for running rich. So I'm thinking my temperature issues are contributing to the rich condition on my engine. I am sorry guys, my neighbor's being loud. Let me just pause the video and you know, I'll probably resume filming once I'm done replacing the thermostat and I show you guys the old part. I do apologize. So I'm sorry for the noise. Let me just pause the video and I'll bring you guys back once the noise is gone. Alright guys, I'm back. So the noise is gone. It's just windy right now. So what I had to do to get more space so I can get to the bottom bolt of the housing is I took these two bolts off. This is a 12 millimeter. This is a 10 millimeter. And they look like this. This is a 12 millimeter. So here's a 10 millimeter. And this frees up this for this harness. What I also ended up doing, if you can see right here, this connector slides into this locking tab. So I pressed on the tab right here in the back and slid it out. So I can get more leverage. Because obviously you don't want to damage this. And trying to mess with it, I kind of, this came apart. So I'm going to have to tape that up. I just need enough room so I can lift this up. And then be able to get my 5-inch extension with my 10 millimeter under there and just break loose that 10 millimeter bolt. Once you break it loose, you can just stick this under there and just twist it off. And as you can see, no mess under the car. It's all going in there. That's why I like this tray for these kind of jobs. Either way, I'm not going to be reusing this antifreeze. Sucks, it's such a waste. I replaced this antifreeze maybe like a year ago, so it's still good. But, you know, I always have plenty of jugs in hand when I find them on sale. So, I'll be refilling the system. So, right now I just took this. As you can see, I have enough room to just move this out of the way. And then take the thermostat out. And once I take this out, a lot of it's going to come out, which is fine. Just got to pry up on it. Stuck in there real well. So, let me get a screwdriver. Let me see. Maybe because the thermostat housing's in the way. Oh, I can actually lift it out of the way. See? So I have enough space to get a new thermostat in there. It's just getting the old one out, which is a little difficult because it's stuck in there. So let me get a pry bar and then I'll show you guys taking it off. I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I managed to take the thermostat housing off, and then I twisted it over this way just to keep the coolant from the radiator flowing out. I'm not emptying the radiator. I don't think it's necessary. I mean, if you see other videos on YouTube, you know, other people will drain the radiator. I think that's a waste of coolant, because we're just draining the block. So I just twisted this up and then keeps the coolant from escaping from the lower end hose. You're going to have the hardest time removing the old thermostat just because, you know, if you've never replaced yours, because mine's original, it has never been replaced. My Honda has about 233,000 miles. It's the original thermostat. So obviously you want to replace that more often. It's not recommended in the owner's manual, but honestly, if you're going to change your water pump and do a timing belt job and do all of that stuff, I mean, you do have to take the water pump off, and that's going to spill a lot of coolant. I think you might as well go this route and also remove the thermostat. You're already going to have the engine apart. you're already going to drain fluid, so you might as well do the thermostat as well as preventative maintenance. It's an inexpensive part, and you don't have to waste coolant. You know, the coolant's already been drained from the block when you drain the radiator. If you have and what else? And yeah, that's pretty much it. Sorry for I lost my train of thought, but yeah, when you drain the block from taking off the water pump, you're not going to spill any more fluid when you take the thermostat off. You just want to be careful when you pry it off. I did use a pry tool or a screwdriver. You want to make sure not to scratch the aluminum surface, so you have to be very careful. So this is dirty, so I'm going to have to clean this off before I put the new one on there. And here's the old thermostat. So what I was trying to do with the screwdriver is get under the gasket and pry right here on the end, on the plate. It was really stuck on there. That's how this thing is. But this is the original Honda part. From what I've seen, the original Honda ones say up on them. Here's the old gasket. It did kind of rip when I was trying to pry under there. But as you can see, it's the same as the replacement that I'm going to use right now from Mahle. Oops. Sorry about that. So as you can see, new thermostat, old thermostat. The only noticeable difference I see is maybe this part right here. On this one, it's just metal. There's no rubber bushing on the end. This one, it has this rubber right here. Probably because this is shorter. I'm not sure. Yeah, because I put my nail under here. And this nipple is shorter, so obviously it needs this bushing as like a shim or something. That's the only difference. This is obviously longer, so it's not gonna need that bushing at the end. But they are very similar, as you can see. So I have no reservation installing this Mahle one. Comes with a new gasket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop this gasket with a little bit of clean silicone and then install it. And I'll show you after I've installed it. Okay. Okay, so I'm done cleaning the thermostat housing. It does have some oxidation and pitting. So maybe this thermostat has been replaced before. I don't know. At least once by the dealership. This vehicle was bought pre-owned at 55,000 miles. From the service records, I know they did change the water pump and timing belt. But I'm guessing this did the thermostat. I just can't find the records of that. It just seems like they might have. But this is the best I can do with alcohol and some distilled white vinegar. You see those little specks of trash? I'm going to turn it over and empty that out. I don't want that in my cooling system, which is fine. And what I mean by silicone, guys, don't worry. I don't mean gasket maker. I just mean this 3M silicone paste. Just grab a little bit with your finger and dab it on the gasket just so it goes in easy. It doesn't stick. Or you can use coolant, as a lubricant. I just use this. It's not gonna harm anything. So let's install this, but also let's make sure the inside is clean. So let's grab our clean microfiber lid free cloth and just wipe any residue I have in there. Clean in there. There's a little bit of residual, but that's fine. As you can see, the mating surface is nice and clean. It's shiny. So let's put a new thermostat in. And again, you want to make sure when you're it didn't come pre-installed like this. I installed the gasket on it, but you want to make sure the little nipple is aligned with this bleed hole, and it's facing up. Okay, hold on. Just make sure my tools are out of the way. So let's install this new thermostat. I'm gonna do it with my left hand. Let me just switch hands real quick. Alright. Let's get this thermostat in here. There you go. Alright. And we aligned the little tab. Like so. As you can see, it's in there. Brand new thermostat. So let's install the housing. So let's get all that gunk out of there, because there's a little bit of specks that flew from the wind. It's windy. Alright. Let's get this on there. You're going to spill some coolant. It's okay. We're going to replace it. You know, it's expected. It's gonna happen. Alright. So let's put in our bolts. Start with the top one. Alright. Alright. It's gonna be hard doing this one-handed. Let me put pause on this and I'll bring you guys back. Thank you. Okay guys, so I put the thermostat housing back on. So, I think just to make it easier for you folks, I would start on the bottom bolt. Because once you get that in and align it, aligning the top bolt's going to be a lot easier. Because you have better access to it. So this might swing around a little bit, up or down. So you'll be able to, manipulate the housing and align it correctly. Because I did it the other way around, which was the harder way to doing it. I first did the top bolt because it was easiest. Then on the bottom one, I had to reach around and then move this so I can align it and then put it back in. And I did it by hand with my 5-inch extension setup with my 1/4 inch, and then I use a 1/4 inch wrench to tighten everything up. And you want to make sure you tighten everything up until it flans out. When the metal surface on both ends meets. Remember, that gasket is already making a secure seal. Now I'm going to take out my torque wrench, and I will also tell you how many inch-pounds to torque it to. Let me just get that set up. I'll be right back. Guys, so I went to piloteers.org. It's a great online community, and I looked up the torque spec for the thermostat housing, and if you see the little bolt on the very bottom, right here where my thumb is pointing, it says that it's going to be at 12 Newton meters or 8.8 pound-feet of torque. My torque wrench only goes to inch-pounds. The Yes King from Amazon. Okay. And just to show you guys, I did verify the part on Mahle's website. I scanned the QR code, like I said. And see, it is a genuine part. And what it says right here, verification successful. This valid code is for a Mahle original part. So this is why I trust Mahle. If I'm not going to go with a original Honda part, just trying to save a couple bucks here. 24 bucks is pretty inexpensive for a thermostat and a gasket. Most of the time you're buying a thermostat, for the same price, and the gasket separately. So let me just set up my torque wrench. I have to do this two-handed. I'll be right back, guys, okay? Alright, guys, so on this torque wrench, this is, hold on. This is as close as I can get it to 12 Newton meters. As you can see, it says 11.3 to 13.56. I did convert the 8.8 inch-pounds to, the 8.8 foot-pounds to inch-pounds, and according to the internet, it's 100.56 inch-pounds, but I put it to 106. So that should be enough to torque those thermostat housing bolts. So let's go to the vehicle and torque those down. I put it a little bit higher just because I am going to be using extensions. And as you all know, you lose some of the torquing force when you use an extension. So, take these off. Alright. So let's go on the first one. And I did the same thing to remove them, so there you go. Oh shoot, I'm removing it by accident. Oops, I have the wrong setting. Alright. Let's snug it up. And now let's torque it. Hopefully you can hear the click. There you go, it clicked. Okay. We're gonna do the bottom one. The top one, like I said, accidentally loosened it up. So you guys saw that maybe it took too many turns to tighten it, but we're gonna do the bottom one. Let me try that. Okay, let me position the torque wrench and I'll bring you guys back. Sorry about that. Alright guys. So I'm able to position my torque wrench. Like I said, you're gonna need 2 hands with this. My hands are about average to small, so this is easier for me. If you have large hands, like I said, I still recommend you loosen those bolts and get this this harness right here out of the way, so it's easier for you to maneuver it. So I just, with one hand, I'm holding my wrench, and with the other one, usually I just feel around underneath the temperature sensor for the other bolt. So now we're gonna torque it down. There we go. These are torqued down to about 106 inch-pounds, the equivalent of about 12 Newton meters or 8.8 foot-pounds. Okay, so let's move that out of the way. Now let's start reassembling everything. It's the reverse of what I did in the beginning, but I'm going to show you some of the stuff in real time. So what we want to do is get this middle bracket back on here. It did come off. Trying to think what came off here. This slid off of this. This came off. Slide it back on there. So there you go, right there. Let's connect our temperature sensor right here. Plug that in. Clicks. Just align everything. And then just start putting the bolts back on. Now be careful when putting these back on. You might have some corrosion on yours, like I do mine. So you just might make sure you don't cross thread these, cause that would be unfortunate. There you go. If I were you, I would put a little bit of motor oil or penetrating oil on there just to lubricate those parts so they don't oxidize next time. That is something I would highly recommend. that one doesn't go there. Something else I recommend, just keep your workspace organized. That way it's easier for you to find your bolts and stuff. So apparently I'm missing one. I'll probably find it somewhere near here. Anyway, let me put you guys down and then let me just reassemble this. Alright guys, so what I'm doing now is that I got some PB blaster or penetrating fluid and just put it in the holes, so it just makes it easier to put these back in and tighten them up. So right now I'm putting back this bracket. Don't forget, on this one, it's the long bolt, the long 12 millimeter bolt. Just putting it like so. You can do this by hand. See, it's a lot easier now that you put some penetrating fluid on there as a lubricant. And let's get the other bolt on there. Like I said, having small hands makes a big difference in working in tight spaces. I remember one time I was working on a friend's air conditioning system, and I was just replacing a hose, and I was following a YouTube video, and I realized I didn't have to remove the intake manifold. It was in a Hyundai, and the only reason the gentleman did that is because, was it the intake? No, he removed just the bottom cover. The only reason he did that is because, he had large hands, so he didn't have the working space. I didn't have to do any of that. I didn't have to remove any plastic panels or the intake manifold to get to the AC line and remove it. I realized that by just double checking, because so if you see this video, some of these steps may or may not apply to you. If you have large hands, maybe you might want to remove the battery tray and the battery to have better working space. And I would get it because, this piece gets in the way. I don't think you have to remove the throttle body. It's not necessary. You just be wasting a good gasket on the throttle body. But for me, I highly recommend just, taking your time, not rushing it, not forcing things. To take that thermostat off, instead of using a screwdriver like I did, just because I was confident with what I'm doing, instead, I would recommend, maybe get like a small block of wood and a rubber mallet, and then just lightly tap on the thermostat, on the actual thermostat itself, just to knock it loose. I would do that. You reduce the risk of damaging the housing or scratching it up. Like I said, I used a screwdriver because I was confident with my ability to remove it that way, but I would still do it the other way. I just didn't have a small enough piece of wood to fit there. But if you do, or maybe the end of a hammer, either a plastic or wooden hammer, and then you tap it on the other end with a rubber mallet, that will get it out. Just some words of advice, and just tying that there, snug. It doesn't have to be any spec or anything like that. There you go. This one's tight. These are already tightened up. And for those of you that are not familiar with the pilot, or you have questions about how to replace the fluid, once you drain the fluid out, you're going to remove this 17 millimeter bolt. That's where you're going to fill. If you have a 2004 and below pilot, you won't have this. 2004, 2003s and 2004 pilots, and also Odysseys, had issues with that transmission where they would overheat. So there was a recall where they put a fill tube here, and they put an adapter, and then there's a fill tube, and then it bolts onto here, and that just takes transmission fluid from the line and then redirects it here. If you have that on your on the vehicle, all you have to do is just remove this bolt and just pry up on that hose, and then you have a inlet hole where you can put a funnel and fill your transmission that way. You can still remove this. I believe it's just a bigger size hex nut. And while you're down here, these pilots do have a serviceable transmission filter. It's in this housing right here, where you see this transmission line coming out of a banjo bolt. I just won't be doing it on this video, probably in a future video. But you definitely want to service that. I would say still every 100,000 miles. Is just not recommended by the dealership. I'm not sure why, but if you look up any channels on anyone that works on pilots, this is something that's always replaced. On this pilot, on this 05, that's where it's located. This is the housing. It's held in by 3 bolts. You can see 2 here and the other one's on the other side. You can see a banjo fitting held in by 1 bolt. That's where the transmission fluid goes to the back of the transmission, and then right here the lines come from the transmission cooler into the transmission, and then it gets pumped through the filter and out that way and to the back of the transmission and to the other line. Just wanted to add that there. Alright, I already reconnected the ground connection. I already put this back. Now let's put this connector back on its bracket right here. Just gonna slide it up. And slide down. And you can hear it click. Just wanna make sure everything's nice and buttoned up. And then right here on your radiator hose, there's this clamp that holds this breather tube for the transmission. Just put it back. You know, there should be an indentation on the radiator hose and where to put it. There you go. Here's a breather tube for the transmission. You just want to reconnect anything that you might have disconnected, just to give yourself enough space or wiggle room. That way you don't accidentally pull a wire. So I'm just going to pause here. I'm going to reassemble everything, and then I'm going to attach my scan tool, and then we're just going to refill the radiator and just reach operating temperature and see what our scan tool says for the temperature. Okay guys, I'm back. So I have my scan tool. I'm using the Thing Diag. I have the dongle plugged in. So all I have to do is put power to the car. Oh, as a friendly reminder, see, this is why I did this on purpose. You know, sometimes you get distracted like I am. You know, I'm filming this video. You do a lot of things. Make sure everything's reconnected. Double check everything. Make sure you don't have extra bolts. Make sure in your connectors. In my case, you know, I gotta make sure I got my negative battery terminal on. There you go. And everything's buttoned up, and I have this OEM Tools funnel kit. There's a part number. This will make changing the antifreeze or coolant in your vehicle so much easier. It's very simple. This is the coolant I'll be using. This Peak Original Equipment for Asian vehicles 50/50. Sorry about the... Alright, here you go. So, this connection's nice and tight. Alright, let's go back in the vehicle. Let's go for the all system diagnostics. And also make sure Bluetooth's on. Yeah, hold on. Alright. There you go. Let's cover up that VIN. Oops. Okay, so we're gonna go to here. Let's get this to focus. Alright, let's read any fault codes we might have. No code. Let's go to exit. So we want live data. So read data stream. Oops, no, we don't want auto. Let's go back. Sorry, I'm looking at the screen right now. Data stream, manual select. So right now we just want the temperature sensors. Confirm. Okay, so I'm gonna take the phone with me because it's Bluetooth, so I'm not. So what we're gonna do right now is I'm just gonna pour coolant into the radiator to top it off, and then I'm gonna start the engine. Alright. Alright. Look at all those air bubbles. Okay, you might also want to press on the hoses to let any air out. Alright. Start the engine, and I'm going to pause the video, and then I'll bring you guys back once the engine is at operating temperature, and then we'll check the live data to see what temperature the engine is running at. Alright, so let's start the car. Alright guys, we'll be right back. Alright guys, so the fluid stopped going down as the fluid displaces the bubbles. It'll do that. So let's check out our temperature. We can get it to focus. So the top temperature, you see the 128 degrees Fahrenheit, 123. That's from the ECT1, or the temperature sensor located right there where I'm pointing my finger. The lower temp is over here by the thermostat. So once this thermostat opens at 195 degrees, you'll see the temperature start rising on the second sensor, as you can see here. This hose is not hot or anything. This hose is still cold. There are no leaks coming from the thermostat housing, which is good. That's what you want, no leaks. Grime. I mean, if you touch it here, you'll feel some moisture. That's because, like I said, we opened this up, so there's going to be a lot of residual coolant on here. Just let the engine warm up. That way for that stuff to evaporate, and then just check. But you shouldn't feel any fluid coming out or anything like that. I'm just bleeding the cooling system by pressing on the hose. Getting all the bubbles out. We're gonna add a little bit more coolant to that. So when the thermostat opens, it's gonna displace a lot of air. Alright, that's my whole jug right there, the 1 gallon. We're going to cover this up so it doesn't make a mess. We're looking at our temperature reading. We're at 172 degrees, 172.4. So the thermostat hasn't opened yet, or it shouldn't be open. The bottom hose is still cold, which is good. That's how we know our thermostat is working as it should. Alright, we're 181.4 degrees. And like I said, the issue I had with the old thermostat is that at this temperature, the bottom radiator hose would already be warm. And then the top one would already be really, really hot. That's not normal, according to the service manual. Alright guys, well my battery's running low on my camera, but just wanted to show you how to change a thermostat on a 2005 Honda Pilot. I'll link the parts I used, some of the tools I used, some of the fluids for this job. I know the video was about an hour. This is the longest video I've ever done. I know I had to take some pauses here and there, but honestly it took me longer than an hour just because I had to pause and then look for things that I didn't have at the time. But yeah, it's a success. Hopefully I won't get that check engine light anymore. I'll keep you folks informed and updated. But yeah, please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a friendly comment. If you feel inclined to donate, I have a donate link on my about section. Thank you all for your time. Stay blessed, and thank you all for watching my video, and hopefully we all learned something new today. Bye.